In 2024, my average daily phone screen time was about more than 6 hours. In fact, just that year, I saw that the longest amount of time I spent on my phone in a week was about 42 hours. After seeing this, I was determined to change my life around and I was really committed to reducing my amount of phone screen time. And the efforts I ended up implementing over the years ended up paying off because last week my phone reported that the average amount of time I spent on it was 2 hours and 54 minutes. So, although this is like a 50% decline of phone screen time, I am still determined to reduce my phone screen time. So in this video, I am really going to talk about how I programmed my mind to scroll less and read more. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the average amount of time we tend to spend on our phone backed by data. And after, I am going to provide 4 steps that I applied to reduce my phone screen time over the past few years. But before then, hi, I'm Lunimi Miseko, and on this channel, I make self-development and educational content. If that sounds like something you're interested in, I hope you stick around. So one of the reasons why I really wanted to make this video is because I believe that we live in a digital era where we're using our phone with less intentionality and purpose. And this has caused us to sacrifice a great portion of our time away for free because we're constantly glued to our phone. In fact, in 2026, Exploding Topics reported that the average time that Americans spent on their phone per day is 5 hours and 16 minutes. But quick disclaimer, in this video, I'm going to look at the average amount of time that Americans spend on their phone. But in the report, the researchers also looked at the average amount of times that people spend on their phone in different countries around the world, like Canada, Japan, the UK, etc. But for the purpose of this video, we're really just going to focus on the American case. So in the same report, it was also reported that about 52% of people in a survey stated that the reason why they used their phone was due to boredom. So there wasn't really any intention or purpose behind it. It's just due to boredom. And I found that very interesting. And if we were to do the math, this means that every year, a person will be spending 80 full days glued to their phone non-stop. If you compound that, this means that for every 5 years, this person spends 400 days of their life glued to their phone. So in simpler terms, it means that for every 5 years, a person would be losing about 1.095 year glued to their phone constantly. If you want to compound that, in 10 years, it means that this same person would be spending about 2.2 years of their life glued to their phone, which is approximately 800 days. If you compound this even further, it means that in 20 years, the same person would be spending about 4.38 years of their life glued to their phone constantly, which is approximately 1,600 days of their life gone due to being glued to their phone. So how did I program my mind to scroll less and read more? So the first thing I did was to read more books, especially during times of boredom. These times can be times where I'm in public and I'm waiting for my bus or train, and it takes about 30 minutes to an hour to wait for the bus or the train, right? And I also forced myself to read during times where I would have like a school break when I used to be a student. And the more I did this, the more it significantly helped me to not only get used to scrolling less on my phone, but it really programmed my mind to really not only get used to reading, but love reading. It became an addictive thing. Granted, it wasn't easy in the beginning because obviously when you're making that transition, it can take a bit of time for your brain to adjust. But afterwards, like as long as you're reading a really good book, you're set, right? And the thing is, the more you train your mind, right, to get familiar with reading, the more it's going to increase your reading tolerance over time, which will help to mitigate phone addiction. So now, a lot of the things I hear from people when I talk to them about reading is that they feel like reading is not for them, that they don't have the patience to read, or that they struggle to complete a book. And to me, I feel like these are excuses because at the end of the day, I feel like people make time for what they want to make time for. And if you can spend hours of your time per day on your phone endlessly scrolling, then you can allocate some of that time to reading, which gives you so many benefits. And in fact, I talk a lot about this in another video that I posted last year about why it's so important to read books. And one of the main things that I argued in that video is that if, let's say, your argument is you struggle to read, you struggle to complete a book, and reading for you is so overwhelming, then one of the things I recommend in that video, and I'm also going to recommend here, is to start small by reading mangas. So if you're not familiar with the term manga, these are Japanese comic books, right? And mangas make reading incredibly addictive. I cannot stress this enough. Okay. Some of the best storytellers are in Japan, hands down. And in fact, in 2026, the Anime News Network reported that the manga industry is worth 4.40 US billion dollars. Okay, so some of the manga that are published right now, they ended up becoming or adapted into animes, and they ended up becoming some of the most popular watched series around the world, like Naruto or My Hero Academia. So manga is where it's at, to be honest. Like, it's incredibly addictive. It makes reading addictive. And if, let's say, you're watching this and you're like, okay, Lunimi, that sounds good, but I've never read a manga. I don't even know how that looks like. Don't worry, I got you covered. So this is a manga that I have from one of my favorite animes of all time, Dr. Stone, and it's volume 14 of the installation. And when you look into the comic book, it looks like this. Okay. So you can see the graphic, or I'm gonna show another. Yeah, it's like a comic book. And the thing is, as long as you find a very good manga that has very good storytelling and very good characters, you're gonna be incredibly addicted. And the thing about mangas is they have different volumes, okay, per manga. So for example, Dr. Stone, it has about more than, I believe, 20 volumes. And that's the thing. When you finish a volume, you're going to be so curious to know what happens next. Yeah, you want to read more. And on average, I believe it takes about 1 hour to 2 hours to complete a manga. It depends on the amount of time it takes you to read in general. And that's like, let's say you read one manga per day, or maybe you read 3 mangas per day. That's like 3 hours you are investing in reading, which is the same amount of hours you could have invested in scrolling on your phone passively. So by you doing this, you're not only expanding your vocabulary, you're not only, you know, engaging with reading and just getting to discover new, very intriguing stories, but you're also reducing your phone addiction and increasing your tolerance for reading. And the more you do this, right, the more it's going to allow you to increase your tolerance for reading to the point where you tell yourself, I wonder what it's like to read a novel this time, like 100 pages novel. Yeah, I get it. Mangas are addictive, but I want to read a novel now. So you're gonna test yourself and you're gonna complete a 100-page novel, and then after you're gonna say, I wonder what it's like to complete a 200-page novel, and your tolerance for reading is gonna increase over time. The more you get used to reading. That's why I can't stress enough why it's so important to start with reading a manga, especially for somebody like overall reading, you feel like it's really not something you have the patience for. Well, get yourself a good manga, that you know you're going to be interested in, and then with time you're going to increase your tolerance for reading. If you want me to suggest or recommend good mangas, let me know in the comment below and I will be happy to do that. So the other thing I do to reduce my phone screen time is to go out more. So during the summertime, what I would do is I'll take long walks in a forest near my neighborhood, very therapeutic, or I will go to the gym during all seasons of the year, or better yet, I will go out with friends. And my general rule of thumb is that when I'm going out to spend time with my friends, I usually like to be present and I tell myself to put my phone down, to not look at my phone when I'm interacting with my friends. And the reason I do this is because nowadays, what I notice is that a lot of people, they rather than spending quality time with their loved ones by being more present, right? They spend the time they're supposed to use to get to know their loved ones and be more present. They spend that time to scroll on their phone instead. And honestly, I think that's rude. Um, so I'll give an example. A couple of years ago, I went to a restaurant with my family, and next to our table, there was a couple. Right, they were facing each other on the table, and the majority of their date was spent with the two of them just scrolling on their phone. And I'm not talking about like, just briefly glancing at your phone to send a quick text and life goes on. No, 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 no. Literally, for the majority of their dates, they were facing each other, and rather than like interacting or getting to know each other, they were on their phone. And I thought to myself, what, like, if I went on a date with a romantic partner, best believe that I would not allow my romantic partner to even be on their phone, because for me, I think it's so disrespectful. And mind you, I'm not here to judge, right? Like, if you're the type of person who uses your phone in public, I used to do that too. But there's something to be said about how there's a time and place for everything. If you took the time to plan an outing with a friend or romantic partner, or if a family member, if you guys took the time to plan something, to get to know each other, to interact more in public by doing an activity together to bond, it's not the time and place to be on your phone endlessly, right? I think it's so honestly, it's one of my pet peeves if you can't already tell. Because when you're using your phone and you're in the company of a loved one, it signals to that person that you don't really appreciate their time, and you find your phone much more interesting than what that person has to say to you. If you're watching this and you have a phone addiction, then what you can start by doing, especially if you're going out with friends, is to honestly, before you go to a designated area where you made a reservation with you and your friend, put your phone in your car. You don't have to bring it in the building. If you know you have that addiction, or better yet, if you know you're going to hang out with a friend, before you leave your house, leave your phone in your house. You don't need to bring it. And the more you do this, right, as time goes on, you're going to notice that you will no longer need to be putting these strict boundaries for yourself, because you've already reduced your phone dependency and you've become much more aware of the amount of time you tend to use your phone, even during moments where you feel bored. And because of that, it's going to allow you to, when you go in public and you spend time with your loved ones, you wouldn't even need to look at your phone anymore. So the next thing I did to reduce my phone screen time is to watch TV or a projector. Now, I know this may sound counterintuitive, but I think that when you're trying to stop using your phone constantly, it's going to be hard in the beginning. That's why it's important to implement a gradual transition to reach non phone contact, so that eventually you can do other things that will help you to decrease that phone dependency, right? And in fact, in 2026, Exploding Topics reported that there was a survey conducted in which 68% of participants associated phone screen time with negative mental health decline. And in that same survey, about Well, a lot of participants associated phone screen time with negative health implications like eye strain. And I don't want to get to a point in my life where, let's say right now, I'm in my 20s, right? And I am scrolling on my phone all the time. Well, if already in my 20s, I'm starting to have eye strain, what's to become of my life when I'm in my 60s, right? What's to become of your life if it's the same thing for you? If, let's say, now you're in your 20s watching this and you're used to, being on your phone and you're starting to develop eye strain, what's life going to look like for you when you are in your 60s? And that's the thing that's scary. I don't want to get to a point where I'm in my 60s and I've lost my eye visibility capacity. So that's why for me, I think it's so important to, really reduce phone dependency by any means necessary, even if it means like transitioning from phone screen time to TV screen time. Because at least with the TV and a projector, those are gadgets that are far away. They're not close to your eyesight, right? They're far away, and you don't even have to, watch these like a TV or a projector in a passive way. You can literally use them to watch things like documentaries or informative podcasts. The final thing I did to reduce my phone screen time was to engage in my hobbies. For example, one of my hobbies is to write books. And I noticed that when I write a book, it really allows me to focus on my purpose, and it allows me to be disciplined with my time. Quick context, I've been writing books since I was 16, and I strongly believe that over the years, because I spent so much time writing my books, creating characters and a story, it really helped me to really rely on my phone less and focus on writing a book, right? And if you're more interested in some of the books that I like to write, I write fictional books, then you can feel free to consult my website, which is lonimimeseko.com. So yeah, when I started writing books, it really allowed me to be more focused. And that's the thing. It's really about using your time and allocating the time that you spend or that you tend to spend on your phone, and allocating that time towards something that you're very passionate about, right? Because at the end of the day, you have to understand that, like, when you're on your phone for hours and hours per day, it's like you're giving your time away for free to billion-dollar companies that want your attention. They need it to be able to capitalize it and profit off of it. So when you distance yourself from your phone and you focus on your purpose and what you were brought on this earth to do, through a passion, through a gift that you were given, you are basically reclaiming your time to do something that makes you happy and fulfilled. You're not just passively living your life, passively scrolling on a phone that is designed to keep you endlessly hooked and distracted. When you focus on your hobby, it gives you meaning, it gives you purpose, and you're able to tune out distractions. So I highly recommend, if there's a hobby that you really like to do, or maybe you used to do this hobby, but over time you just pushed it aside because you got busier with life, then start considering whether you can do it again. And I guarantee you, by you focusing on that hobby, it's gonna allow you to really reduce your phone screen time. So if you've made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. I really hope that some of the things I said in this video were helpful. And let me know down in the comment below if you have a phone addiction, or what are the steps that you took personally to reduce that phone addiction. Right? I would really love to hear your thought. And I know that eventually, when you're on a mission to really reduce your phone screen time, I know how much in the beginning that can be so tough. Trust me, I've been there. It was so hard in the beginning. But I think when you want to be disciplined and you really want to improve your quality of life, eventually you're going to program your mind to get accustomed to the new habits that you're implementing in your life, right? And it's going to help you in the long run, right? So again, thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.